Maybe we could give Annette a round of applause. We also involved an industry group with this. We worked with the IBEC Connected Health Group, and I'm delighted to have actually one of the unsung heroes of the Irish startup community, serial entrepreneur. Can you please welcome Kieran Daly CTO Healthbeacon to the podium, please. Thanks, Martin. Thanks everyone. So my name is Kieran Daly. I'm the CTO and co-founder of Healthbeacon, and we're a medication adherence technology company that develops smart tools for managing medication. So essentially we have a connected sharp spin that helps patients who are taking injectable medication stay on time and on track by connecting their homes and extending that continuum of care into the home. We've connected thousands of patients in Ireland and many more internationally, and are launched across 13 different markets. So in terms of our vision and how this intersects with the meeting here today, really what we're looking at is very much a digital future where our particular corner of the universe is concerned with medication and scripts and things like the high-tech scheme, etc. So for us, the trend that we see is the digitization of scripts, and this concept of connected medication and connected scripts as being something that's part of the future and indeed part of the HSE's future. So in terms of why we're here and why this matters, this is some maths for folks to have a little think about first thing in the morning and see if you can figure out this formula as to what it means. Any guesses? So it's new technology plus old organization equals costly old organization. And really what that's about, there's a number of ways you could kind of roll this up and spin that, but in effect, why we felt the masters from an industry perspective was something super important was, as innovators and startup companies, large, small, different shapes and sizes, I think it's really important that we're going to continue to kind of innovate from the outside in a little bit, as Paul Reed referenced earlier on, but also we need to think about the kind of organizations that we're working with and interacting with. So for us to actually, to get new technologies adopted and particularly to get new technologies scaled and indeed accepted and continue to thrive and develop, it's very, very important that we start to also look about and think about the process and that organization that these technologies are being adapted into. So as we talk about digital, I think it should never be overlooked that the organization itself has to change. Otherwise, you're simply just throwing tech and shiny objects at a system that's fundamentally resistant, unless you start thinking about how you change that from the inside out. So in terms then of managing complex change, and this probably reflects a little bit of Martin's earlier slides, there's a couple of different elements that we consider key to successfully bringing change through, and bringing change through at a complex level, because healthcare is complex, and no matter what he tells you, it's going to stay complex. There's a lot of moving parts to it, so for sure you can think about removing friction, but actually there's so many things and so many people that you have to get pointing the same direction in order for change to stick. So you can see down here, this is a paper from a couple of years back, but a piece of work that we lean on as industry and within our company quite often, which is how do you manage this complex change, and you can see the kind of side effects of not having all the right elements in place. But for us, as we thought about this program and when Martin was engaging industry to understand our view, the elements started to really line up. And I think if you look at the vision, we have that in space through Martin's leadership and the white team that's here today. I think that's something that's very important to set. The skills and incentives, resources and action plan are other elements to really make that change come through. And for us, the skills and having the skills isn't just something you can kind of stumble across. You have to kind of take yourself to one side, take yourself out of the system to some extent, which is why this course I think is a great start and a great approach to really developing those skills from within the system. Because unless those skills are apparent and evident and taught effectively within the system, then that kind of pull demand and real kind of sucking in of innovation simply isn't going to happen. So I think I commend Martin and the organization and the ambition of this program, and I think for us as industry, it really hits across all of these vectors. So final slide in terms of why this approach matters. I think it's the right time and the right place. People have been doing laps and versions and kind of half efforts at this, and I mean that respectfully in terms of some of the historical context and things that people have tried to achieve. But actually, it seems like it always seems like now or never. But this really feels like now or never in terms of all of the demands and macro climate that healthcare faces. I think this concept of broad stakeholder engagement is key and has been key, and I think Paul referenced it earlier with this inside out and outside in type of innovation. No one actor, be it the large state kind of single payer system, the HSE, or insurers, or healthcare companies, or pharma companies, can actually do this on their own. So it's so important to keep that engagement and keep that flow in a very systemic way. And I think part of what's great about the course is this kind of project and that very kind of driven to use specific examples, a bit like not just capturing the marshmallow, but actually to really think about how we can turn these innovations into something that's scalable. I think the final 2 points are super important for us as industry, and something that perhaps, with all of the clinical and process expertise that sits within the HSE, something that I think, everyone benefits from, and from a company perspective, we benefit from this time and time again, is try and understand and think about the business case, and think about, the skills that it takes to write a business case, think about the economic impact, the costs, and the real kind of hardcore elements of what allows a project to be successful. And, in many cases, for projects to be successful, you need that senior leadership buy-in, you need that senior leadership sign-off. And in many cases, that can sink or swing based on the business case. For sure, people will do an early innovation and take a look and get excited by the shiny object. But to really make it scale, I think those skills right through the organization, in terms of how to write a business case and how to get something accepted and across the line, is super important. I think the final point is, really about making it scalable and making it stick. So one of the elements that was really eye-catching in the course and in the program was thinking about longer term, not just on a short-term project basis, but how do you design in the fundamental criteria for scalability at a pilot stage? Because far too often, a pilot is a success or a failure, and then it's kind of put to one side and everyone moves on and does the next pilot, when in fact, we should be focusing and concentrating on how we take that pilot and really grow it and scale it through an organization as large and impactful as the HSE. That's it. Thank you.